December 30th. I'm hiking down solo into the bottom of the 400. Another beautiful day in the Ozarks. So I've made it down to the bottom. I'm headed down to the end of the creek. I'm going to run down here and look for tracks and all that good stuff. And all throughout the summer, from July up until probably the middle of October, we were getting a lot of tracks down here and finding a lot of mussel shells that were being broken into. And we do have a bunch of blue herring that nest on the property, and they will do that, and we find their tracks down there too. But we are finding these human looking foot tracks that are going out into the water barefooted in the middle of October, walking through areas where there are tons of sticks, rocks, sharp things protruding up into the mud. We've shown tracks that have pieces of root or stick that are pointed and very sharp that are sticking up into these tracks, and there's no off step, which means they didn't release the pressure, the downward pressure of their foot going onto these sharp pointed sticks. They didn't pull their feet up and re-step. There's no evidence of that. So whatever's leaving these tracks has some pretty solid feet. During our October expedition, it was actually October the 6th, I believe, I got a visual. I had a sighting out here sitting at camp, and camp is straight through this direction, and there was basically a hole in the trees and the tall weeds and whatnot where I could see through down through this area. And earlier on that morning, I had thought I'd seen a head pop up behind this batch of trees back here. And that afternoon, this tree right here, you can see all this junk that's in front of it. Right here, this tree right here, probably where this fork is, this small fork, from there up was bent over. And I mean literally bent over, bent in half. And from what I could tell, it had this, by one hand, most likely, I would think, and it was pulling down this direction, and the head was actually over here on this side. So, I don't know exactly how it was positioned. All I could see was basically the head. I was straight back through there, sitting at camp by the fire, and I look up and there's a head right around in here. It stared at me, I stared at it, and basically from there I had Chris Reinhardt to the right of me, and I had Chris come around behind me to look over my shoulder to look down through this hole in the woods. And as he looked over my shoulder, the head dropped, it let go of this tree, and it flung back up and did this. So it was nothing too spectacular, but we came down the next morning and we checked all this out, or we came down that morning after I had the first visual, and you can see this is all kind of flat, and there is a kind of a trail that leads through here. and goes back and around, and looks like it goes all the way down to the creek. I'm not going to spend any time today following it because I have other things I need to get done, but I just wanted to show you guys this, and just another one of those crazy instances that you're not prepared for. You know, we get out and we hike these areas, and we have 2 or 3 spots out here where we know that something is frequenting these spots. We're finding tracks, we're finding other things that we don't necessarily talk about and show, but this, you know, being so close to camp, it was just one of those moments where you're kind of in awe that it happened. And we're maybe 50 yards from where I was sitting. So, you know, it seems to be a common number that we come up with. 50, 60 yards is about as close as they've seemed to have gotten out here. Just judging by, you know, these visuals that we got, the thermals that we have gotten. We had one thermal that we estimated about 70 yards away. So it all just depends on the situation, I guess, and, you know, what they have to hide behind and what they have to keep between us and them, what have you. So I was sitting right here, basically, and I was literally, I believe, looking right through here. I was sitting right there next to the campfire, and this was the hole that I was looking through. And that morning I had seen something right back here behind. There's one tree, and then there's a clump of 3 trees right behind it. Of course, this was all green and thicker and really grown up. And then, of course, the second one in the afternoon was right there. You can see the tree. So it was literally right there. So I was dealing with all this stuff in between us. It was just a head popped up. This lasted maybe 8 to 10 seconds max. And boom, it dropped down. The tree was bent over this direction, and it flopped back up. Alright, so right here, we come up through this area on our hike every single time, and we've had some odd things happen here with rocks. And I know for a fact, last time I was out here, that these 2 rocks were not here. And it's real easy to show just by picking these rocks up, and you see this is all green under here. If this has been sitting here for any good amount of time, the moss under that would be dried out, it would be brown, at least. And that's saying there's any moss at all. Look at that, completely covered with moss. So these rocks have been placed here fairly recently. And what you're hearing is not knocks, those are gunshots way, way off in the distance. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. Tells us absolutely nothing, but it's definitely an oddity that these rocks show up on top of these other boulders that are completely covered with bright green moss. So, I don't know, you tell me. So I wanted to take a second to fill you guys in on what's going on, why I haven't been putting out videos and whatnot. Everything from basically July to October is going to be all part of the documentary series that we're putting out, and that's going slower than I would like. It's taking a little longer than I'd hoped. I'm having to drop back and do some things I hadn't planned on as far as narration and a few other things. So it's taking a little longer, and I'm having to spend a little more money to get it done, but it's okay. I just want it to be, you know, as good as possible. When you watch the whole thing and you see how our experiences evolve over the 5-day period in July, you'll get a bigger picture of what's going on out here. We did capture some thermals. We did, get a lot of tracks and had a lot of fun stuff happen. But one of those things by themselves doesn't show too much. It doesn't prove anything. But when you look at the experience as a whole, the whole 5 days and what we were dealing with and the things we were doing, and you get that big picture, you start to get the scope of things. And we're excited to get that out. It's going to be a bit still, a couple more months most likely. And once we get it out, of course, we'll let everybody know, and it will be on Amazon Prime. We're using these documentaries to basically put ourselves in a position to where we can use anything that we make off of it to, one, either get more equipment or help pay for our time so we can spend more time out in the woods. We all have, jobs and bills to pay, and anything that we can do to lessen that up and pay for ourselves and pay for our food, so it's not all coming out of our pocket. And it was the best way that we could come up with to do it without doing the GoFundMe's or the Patreons. We just didn't want to do any of that. We wanted to do it all ourselves and self-fund it. So this is how we're going to do it, and hopefully we get support from the community. If not, that's cool. It's not about that for us. It's about the adventure. It's about the knowledge. It's about, being out in the Ozarks and nature and just really, really enjoying ourselves and having fun. And in the meantime, hopefully getting to have some crazy experiences that most people don't get to have. I've had plenty of those. The other guys have had their own, and now we've had them together. So our hope is that come next spring, we're all going to get back together and we're going to push this and see how deep we can go, see what we can prove, see what we can't prove. We're going to run through theories, and we've came up with some ideas and some different ways to test some of the running theories that are out there in the community, and hopefully we'll be able to prove some. Hopefully we'll be able to disprove some, and it doesn't really matter either way. Whether we're disproving a theory or proving a theory through whatever means or methods, it's going to start narrowing things down, and that's our goal, is to narrow things down and get a little bit understanding, a real understanding of what is actually going on in the woods, and what is it that these people other than us are experiencing. So we have a long-term goal. It's a long-term project. We're going to be adding a lot of things next spring, and I can't talk about those too much, but eventually there's going to be a way for especially the people in Missouri to get with us and get us sighting reports and whatnot. So we've got other things in the works. We are looking to expand our operation next spring, and not only expand our operation and what we're doing, but hopefully we're going to add 2 or 3 people to the team, and that's going to help immensely with logistics and whatnot. It's going to be harder and more complicated than what people actually think. We do have plans to build and construct some things down at camp, and we're going to make it a little easier to stay long term and not have to come in and out as much, or have people coming in and out. So next spring everything's going to take off. We're going to do this, and like I said, man, it's about the fun, it's about the knowledge and the experiences and the camaraderie amongst the group of guys that I'm working with. So I'm really excited for it. Keep an ear out for the documentary, and until then, OMS.